So, hello everyone. I'm very happy to introduce everyone here at this panel discussion today for the Menstrual Hygiene Day on the 28th of May 2021. My name is Agnes. I'm working for Viva con Agua Arts. And I'm happy to host for this very special day a lot of different speakers and participants. And yeah, for this session, I'm really honored that we are having our guest speakers here from Nepal. So it's on the one hand, Giri Khatri, and then also Sabita Adhikari. I hope that I pronounced your names correct. So yeah, maybe you can also introduce a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let me start. Hello, I am Giri Khatri. I'm from Nepal and I work for Welthungerhilfe as a program manager, and I manage WAS and DRR portfolio for country office Nepal. And I have been working in this WAS sector since I think for more than 10 years. And yeah, it's my pleasure to be part of this campaign. Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Sabita Adhikari, and I'm from Nepal too. I represent Rural Reconstruction Nepal, other than from Nepal, and I work as a project coordinator in VCA and WHS funded WASH project in Chitwan district of Nepal. And I work here as a project coordinator, and I have been working in this sector for the past 7 years. Yeah, and I would really like to thank WHS Nepal and then also VCA for providing this opportunity to speak about menstrual hygiene, because this topic is also very special to me. It's one of the reasons I have been working in WASH sector because of the menstrual hygiene thing. So it's an honor. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. So yeah, the honor is on my side. Like I'm working for Viva con Agua, I think more than 8 years. And I just recently last year discovered the quite big topic about menstrual hygiene. And for me also the connection of menstrual hygiene and WASH was not completely there. You know, it was not obvious if you're not part of the design of the project of WASH. For some people, it's not clear that it's part of it. So just to maybe also repeat that one more time, like Viva con Agua and the Welthungerhilfe is supporting WASH projects. WASH meaning water, sanitation and hygiene. So it's an interlinkage and very holistic approach of different areas which are connected to water. And under the hygiene component, there is the menstrual hygiene. And last year for the Menstrual Hygiene Day, we started to talk about it and to raise awareness. And this year we also said, okay, let's really also bring some different international perspectives in. So that's why we have Sabita and Giri here, and I'm really happy and excited and honored. And maybe you can start to explain a little bit about menstrual hygiene and the design of the project, but maybe also how is it within the WASH, you know, like there is the project, the design. Maybe Giri, you can talk a little bit about that. And then how is the menstrual hygiene also interlinked within that? That would be very interesting.
Menstrual hygiene management is integral part of our whole WASH program. And then before we just consider it as one of the hygiene, like behaviors targeted to women. But later on, so once we started to implement the project, then we realized that's not enough. So under the WASH program, we take special consideration for the menstrual hygiene. So during design period, what we do is basically like we do a quick assessment, and then we also assess like in terms of sociocultural, what are the sociocultural practices and the geographic location, because it depends, it varies from one location to location, because there are different culture, customs over there, and the way they treat this menstrual hygiene issues differently. And then also we do a consultation with local stakeholders like local government. And then based on that, we identify what are the prevailing issues over there. And then what should be done, like to, in order to overcome these misconceptions or taboos, whatever the difficulties are around the menstrual hygiene. And then we plan and execute the project. Yeah.
Would you like to add something, Sabita?
Yeah, I think Giri has covered a lot of things, and basically in Nepal, menstruation is not only related to the physiological process. There is a lot of stigma and background behind it. So as he said, it depends on the intervention. They depend on the context, because every menstruating woman, they have their own problems, and it also depends on the ethnicity and the culture and the social aspects. So these all needs to get considered, and it's a very complex topic. It seems so simple, but then there are so many complexity related to it. We talk with the local governments, especially with the education and the health sectors, because they know what is the actual problem over there, and then we design the intervention. Yeah.
Maybe because you both said it's different and the context is different. And when I was in Nepal visiting the WASH projects, for me, I also saw different cultural settings, but not only cultural, but also geological. I mean, you have these different areas, you have the urban area, then have Chitwan is, scattered, and there is not, what I remember, sometimes you have areas where you don't have a village, but it's like different houses, just really remote and alone, so also the context generally differs from the different areas in Nepal. To make it a little bit clearer for the people listening of the design of the menstrual hygiene projects, maybe you can give some examples, like what exactly are you doing in one specific area, so people and the listeners can understand where you have the differences and how actually then the design of the project, how it's done, how it's implemented.
I'm really glad that you have been to Chitwan, and it's easier for me to, it's easier for you also to visualize the project locations and all. I would like to give example of our project area, because Chitwan is it's categorized as a Tarai flatlands in Nepal. So it's one of the districts that has been categorized as flatland, but also there are some parts that are like hilly. I think the part you went where, because the project is really focused on the hilly areas, and the majority of the people we work on is a marginalized community called Chepang. So they are very indigenous communities, and also categorized as marginalized, and also other beneficiaries are the Janajatis. So they are not, they are the because the stigma with the menstruation is more on the Aryan culture, in Hindu culture in Nepal. So the project area we are focusing on, so we don't have that much of social taboo, because they are related to that ethnicity. So they are the Janajatis, and the strictness regarding with the menstruation and the relation with the religion is not that strict in that area. But having said that, the problem there is because the people are really poor there, and the education is also not that advanced. So they don't know the basic hygiene management, and they don't know about the basic science of your body, like why are you menstruating, So we have the gap there. So we don't have to work more on the social taboo. That it is there, but not as much as we expect from, because in Nepal, if we talk about the far western region or mid-western region, there is this extreme case of menstruation where menstruating women are not allowed to enter their home, and they literally have to stay 4 or 5 days away from their home in a small shed, in a cow shed or things like that. We don't have the problem here. So the problem we have in our project area is they are not able to manage the menstrual hygiene management things, and we were designing the project to to raise the awareness in the school children to know the basic of the physiology of like why you are menstruating and like what are the do's and don'ts you have to do in the menstrual hygiene management. So I think this gives a bit idea because it depends upon the ethnicity also, and also depending upon the geographical area. And maybe Giri can compliment me on this question as well.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Sabita, for highlighting the issues from Chittagong region. So we do have a program in Tarai region as well, like we are working in Saptari and Siraha, southern part, and where like we have a different ethnicity people. So as Sabita said, among Aryan groups or pure Hindu families, like in higher caste, there are more restriction. And then so the area we are working and the people we are targeting in Tarai are like a Musar and low caste ethnicity communities. They are also like, ultra poor, or some are like living in squatter land and some are urban slums. So they are like, we do have a difference, in terms of menstruation tables. So their people are not allowed to, engage in, for example, worshiping or visit to temples and others area. And then so by the time, so they are not allowed to go inside the kitchen, and then they have to separate, to get lunch, like they can't join their family members. They have to go to sit in a separate location. And then for at least for 5 days. And also, I was in, I think just 2019, I was in the project location, and I found interesting thing, like people are, using this, like a normal clothes, what are available in their home is a sanitary pad. And then they are throwing this in the pond and in different, like open areas. And the reason, and I was quite curious why people are throwing this garbage, and there is no proper, means of waste management system over there. So I came to know that, people, they cannot bury that one, or they cannot, the reason was, and I was quite curious why they are throwing everywhere and why they are not managing properly. Even they can, sometimes they can burn it and then convert it into ash and throw it, but they are not doing that. The reason was, they have a strong belief that if they dispose that on that way, then they will not, get a baby. So they have such a, a belief. And then they are throwing in the pond or this area, but they don't know about the environmental hazards that creates by throwing the waste in everywhere. So we are trying to address number of issues, like in some families, like especially from Brahmin families, there is strong taboos, they are not allowed to touch things. So we are trying to avoid these things, by awareness raising, training, and also in some places there is a lack of education or proper orientation on how to manage it properly. So in that case, we are providing orientation to them, how to manage and what menstruation cycle is. And then in some locations, even we are doing a lot of campaigning, this isolation process should be demolished, and let girls or let women are allowed enter during the menstruation period as well, because it's part of life. It is part of a biological process, So we are mainly focusing on this area.
Okay. Yeah, it's very, it sounds very complex because it's so different, like you were both speaking about the different caste systems, so lower and higher caste, that there are different challenges coming out with every caste. Sometimes it's more not so stigmatized, more not so taboo topic, but on the other side, what I heard always is that there is a lack of education around the topic, around the biological process of it, so that was very interesting to me. What I also would like to know, so I know that the menstrual hygiene design of the project, usually wherever, what kind of background you have different components. So you have, for example, what you all mentioned, the educational part, and that what you also mentioned a little bit, Giri, is the different products, but also the waste management. So maybe you can, give us a little bit of an example, like how you, for example, do it. Like, for example, you go to the schools. Do you go to the different offices? Like, how do you reach the people, as an example again? And what kind of like workshops or projects or speakers or whatever lectures you design to like get the knowledge and the educational part across? And maybe also give some examples if you and how you also integrate the part of the products. And then also maybe something like how can you manage the waste, you know, like what kind of methods you use there. I know the question is really big again, because you explained me both the different contexts, but maybe that's just because of the listeners, and some people are maybe never been to Nepal. For them, it gives them a little bit of more, you know, practical like insights on how it's actually then done.
Yeah, sure. So basically, you know, like in under MHM Menstrual Hygiene Management Program, we focus on 4 components. So one is like awareness raising and training. Under training also, like we have different types of component. For example, for the adolescent girls, we provide a training on how they can make their sanitary pad themselves using raw materials, you know, like which are environmental friendly, and so that they can design of their comfortness, you know. And then other than that, we do train like a community we work with a mothers group as well. So we train them on, like, you know, like in the same way, like what should be done, what should not be done, or how can they, you know, like even like in a family, like mothers can menstruate and their daughters can menstruate. But, you know, like there is a discrimination, you know, like even when daughters menstruate, even like mothers cannot allow their daughter to enter, you know, like into the kitchens, but these both are menstruating, you know, like, so we're trying to remove this, you know, like misconception over there. And then second component is like we work with at the school level, so we provide like user-friendly water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities. So where like we address this, you know, like considering adults and girls, we provide like a toilet with a 24 water supply. And also we also have construct like a separate changing room, you know, like and where during their period time they can go inside the room and then they can change. And then we do have like, you know, proper disposal system over there, like so that they don't need to come out with that pad, you know, like otherwise if you cannot manage pad, you know, like a disposal system over there, then again there is issues. So we construct like a separate changing rooms in some cases, like and then we ensure, like, you know, like there is a proper availability of soap, running water, and user-friendly hand washing platform with continuous water supply, so that, you know, like they can clean themselves, so they can maintain hygiene during the schools. And then another part is like, you know, we do also work in a somehow in a how can we, you know, like promote cost-effective sanitary pad, because in the market we can find different types of cost pad that has like a cost, but people cannot afford it. So the common practice is they use, you know, like their used clothes, for example, like a scarf or sari or whatever they have, so they use. So, but how can they make it, you know, like using those clothes? So, and then so we try to maintain that supply chain as well. So we are working with some of the entrepreneurs, like tailors who tailoring, who you know, like skew the clothes. So, and then so we are providing training to them as well, so that they can produce, which can be reusable, environmental friendly, and then they can reuse, like per time and again. So, and then, so at school level, we also work on the access, we talk about the awareness raising, training, but if they do not have proper facilities to use it, then they can't make it happen. So we work on the facilities, or how can we access them? And then, so whatever the good examples that we have, we are also doing advocacy with local government, who is responsible, to manage schools, and who has who develop annual program for the development, and then also we are encouraging them to address menstrual hygiene issues in that annual program through our learning advocacy, so that we just work on this with a limited budget and targeting the specific groups, right? But we can't cover full. But ultimately, it's a government job. So we are also working on knowledge sharing, and also advocacy part. So within these areas, we are implementing our program. So maybe Sabita may give practical examples from field, taking an example of anything.
I think that all the components are almost covered, but to give a specific examples, we have been working on 18 schools in our project area, which are basically the secondary school and the lower secondary schools, because it's not that necessary for the students starting in primary level because they don't menstruate. And we are specifically focusing on the 18th school of our project area, where we have been able to develop and formulate the school wash plan in all the schools. And we have also supported with the infrastructures, like the user-friendly infrastructures related in the school, with the separate toilets facilities for girls and boys, and with the pad changing room that is inbuilt with the incinerator for the pad disposal. And while making the school wash plan, because it's basically based on Nepal government's washing school guidelines, the school wash CC, that is a school wash sanitation and hygiene coordination committee, has been formed, under which their focal person has also been elected for the school, so that the students it's easy for the students to talk to someone, and we are and most of the WAS focal person are also females, because the female students don't hesitate to ask for the help in the school with the WAS focal person. And we have formulated the WASH plan that is in the 3-star approach, and which integrates menstrual hygiene management indicators, like whether they do have a facility, infrastructural facility or not, whether they do have like waste bin disposal in the school or not, or whether they have the ISC materials and the learning materials of MHM or not in the school. So there are some scores that you have to give to your own school, and based on their evaluation, they have to make a future work plan on achieving the 3rd star in the school, like the full marks on the school. So yes, we have been able to formulate the school WAS plans, and it has helped the student a lot. And the school WAS plan is basically developed in presence of all the school management committee, parent-teacher association, child clubs, and other stakeholders related to the schools. So this is another example. And I think another component that we have been working on is also in the emergency response, in support with VCA and WHS. Under this project, we have been able to address MHM also in the emergency response, like when the COVID-19 lockdown was very strict last year, and people were struggling for the basic food items. Along with the food items, we also distributed the hygiene kits for the marginalized community, and also for the women that were on postnatal period who just delivered their child. So we included the sanitary pads and other hygiene kits that was focused with MHM. So we are also working on the emergency response. Integrating MHM is one of the integral part. Mm-hmm. So I think these are the components we have been working on.
Oh yeah, very very interesting and wide. I mean, you were both talking about the different stakeholders and the whole cluster, you know, involving everyone from school representative to the government, you know. So that's really interesting and very holistic approaches I'm hearing. So it's also very, very interesting. And my next question would be, what are the main, I mean, beneficiaries? Of course, women, girls, menstruating person, but did you already also start to like make education for boys and girls, for example? You know, like I think Giri, you also mentioned it in the beginning. It's not enough, you know, to only address like one group. So maybe you can explain a little bit about the different age groups and groups you address, and maybe also already some goals you reached, you know, like some learnings. I mean, the same in Germany. I mean, just speaking a little bit about education in Germany, we also realized it's different, you know, like some people remember that there was maybe in biological class a little bit about the topic included into the female cycle, but some of the people don't remember anything learning about it in school. So we also have the same, you know, challenges sometimes, so that the school curricula is different, and that there is no holistic approach, that all stakeholders have to work together, that the setting and the background is always different from school to school, to person. But over the years, we already had some organizations and activists and NGOs raising a lot of like awareness and also campaigns, but this happened in the last years, I would say. Not 5 years ago, there was nothing out there and no one speaking really about it. And usually always there's also a learning curve. So maybe you can, explain also a little bit about what changed. Maybe at the beginning there were no male persons involved in the whole process, and how it is nowadays, and maybe you also will adopt to it in the next coming months or years, you know. That would be nice.
Now with the beneficiaries of menstrual hygiene interventions, because basically, you know, like the term menstruation itself, it feels like it's only directed to women because we are the one who menstruate. So it's very obvious, like the beneficiaries are obviously going to be the females who are menstruating, the adolescent females, and also the mothers. So if we talk about like some decades earlier, especially in Nepal, when I was also in the beginning of this career in water sanitation and hygiene, so the intervention were more focused only with the females. Because it's very obvious, because the thing is, it's still stigmatized a lot, and people don't speak about it. And it's very hard for them to even to utter the word menstruation in Nepali. The situation is like that, and it's obviously very easy if we have like a focal group discussion only with the females, because the tendency to open up is very easy when there are only female peer groups in the group. Until now, especially with the awareness and education rising programs, the females are the primary beneficiaries. But as Giri mentioned earlier, you know, because it's for a holistic approach, and because it's a very complex system, and if it has to change, the whole society has to change. And the menstrual interventions in Nepal has now slowly realized the importance of the male peer groups, and also the counter male part in the family. They had to know the different issues that their daughters or their wives or their partners have been facing. So I think these days there are more programs that are also including boys. And also regarding the beneficiaries in the school, because we also construct the infrastructure. So in a whole, the whole school gets benefited. That includes all the teachers, all the boys and girls in the schools, and also the some health workers, because menstruation is after education, the second entry point, the nicer second entry point would be the health system also. So there are some organizations, and we are also working with the grassroots level female health worker, because they are the one who reach to all the communities, mother group and all. So yeah, it's been changing, and I also like to give example, because it was on February 2021 when we had this one-day orientation designed for the school children's, and previously it was done only with the female peer groups, because we were thinking like maybe they won't open up. But this time I was designing the course for the one-day orientation, and then I thought like, yeah, I think male needs to like get integrated, because it's on the course, they have to read it, you know. And I think there were a few sessions, like 4 or 5 sessions that I went on, then I oriented the students, because I really love this topic, you know, and I'm very sensitive to this topic. And I was there in the field, and you know, when you ask some guys, the positive thing is like some of them, they are really open. Even in the remotest part, there are some examples of guy who know so many things about menstruation, but at the same time, like the majority of the guys, they don't care. It's, I think, also because of their age, because they are in just the teenage where they are ashamed, and you know, like they are I think it's very at that age, you know, you get like shy and everything and things like that. But when I asked, like when I used to ask the questions about MHM in the beginning, during the icebreaker, they were so reluctant to speak about it, like saying that, you know, like this doesn't matter to us, you know, because we don't menstruate, I think. And then I used to say like, but you have to read it on the course, you know, and your mother and your sister are menstruating, and they have to know about the problems. But later on, after the icebreakers and everything, they really opened up. But the first notion they have about the menstruation is like, yeah, it's not related to us, and we don't need to know about it. But these days, realizing the importance of the boys and the male counterpart knowing about the menstruation, because it's the whole environment that enables the person to change, and without the support of their the boys and the male part, I think this MHM intervention, it doesn't work in a holistic way. So yeah, there has been changes in the interventions targeting also the male part for the rising campaigns, and also but basically in a broader way, if we see, it's more school centered, and it's very obvious because it's very easy to reach the young students over there. So it's the beneficiaries are more with the school and girls, obviously, by default. And also there are now these days a lot of intervention, including the guys and teachers and health workers, FCSBs have been included.
Thank you.
I think I spoke a lot.
Yeah, just to add a couple of things here, you know, like it's Sabita was saying about the curriculum as well. So, you know, like you have in this school course, you have menstrual hygiene management course over there. But, you know, in most of the schools, teacher, you know, like skip these sessions, because most of the teachers are male who teaches the health. And if there are female teachers, then they can take a class. But even like, you know, sometimes they don't dare to take class because you know, like even teachers themselves feel shy. So we realize, you know, like we should also work with the teachers as well, you know, like so that you know, like they can deliver the session in a proper way. Otherwise, you know, like even like when I was in school, I never, you know, like my teacher never took that class, and he used to say, okay, you can read this session, you know, this session, and you know already, and he was just skipping all these sessions. And still, this is continue until now, when we are just trying to simplify this, you know, like all the misconception, or like, you know, all the hesitation they have through our, you know, like training, and through our, you know, like conversation with them. And then also sometimes we do like we do have like a field staff in a project location, and then first we train them, you know, like how can they create an enabling environment, you know, like so that students can learn, teachers can teach, yeah, and then they have like a two-way conversation or two-way communication. And also, as Savita said, like before, we took like okay, it's just issue of women, but that's not true, because if men can understand the issues properly, then they can help them to create an enabling environment. For example, like before I wasn't aware, but now I can help my family. I can help my wife, like even I, before, like, like when I saw people who went to shop and carrying this sanitary pad, at the time I was thinking, oh, this guy. But this time I don't feel like hesitation to go and buy a sanitary pad. I have one experience. Just before lockdown, I went to a supermarket, and all these ladies were there are the sales girls were ladies, and then I was just asking a sanitary pad giving size, because there are different sizes. So I asked with size, and they felt shy and they ran away of me. They realized, they thought that I'm teasing them, but later on, like as soon as I explained them, I'm coming here to buy for my wife, and then we need like I need for a specific, size, and then later they gave me notes. Like it means like people still, they are not even like. This is the example from the Kathmandu Valley, like where we said like it's a poor urban area of Nepal, and usually we consider in urban areas people are more educated, right? But even the sales girls still she didn't feel comfortable to communicate with me about the pad, just 2 months back. It means like still there are some hesitations or some misconception or misunderstanding about in this topic. And having said that, like as of now, if we see just we reached more than 550 adults and girls, and we trained them like on how to make sanitary pad themselves. And now most of them are almost all are they are just making their own pad and using for the administration period. And then we do have a system like, okay, the trained girls would have like a peer with another girls, and so that they can teach to her friends. In this way we are trying to reach more people. And also like as of now, currently we have already completed user friendly, or we can say menstrual hygiene management friendly facilities in 21 schools in overall, like through our programs. And still we're continuing in 13 schools, still ongoing. And we're planning for additional 15 schools. It's like altogether we are going to reach, by the end of this year, we're going to reach more than 50 schools. That benefits more than like 8,000 students. And of course, more than 50% are girls. And when we provide the facilities, that benefits for girls, boys, teachers, and the parents who visit over there, right? And then also like we have made different course design for like orientation packages. It's Savita says 1 day's orientation package, like 3 days teachers training. And then just to having like a group session with mother groups, we use Plex or isometers that can portable and easy to understand using different pictures and web. And apart from this, we do organize different competition among students, sometimes in communities. It's just we are doing just to create awareness and just to open up people so that they can come and talk about menstruation, and then create awareness to among the community people, regardless of culture, ethnicity, caste, So we are trying on that way. And as said, Sabita said, like we are also considering this menstrual hygiene products for this our relief package as well. So last year altogether we have these 4,109 household with a proper wash kit. That has a different component, of course, but each family has a woman, mothers, sisters. So we have designed and we consider like we took an average, like okay, in one family there must be like 3 women. So so at least during this pandemic time, lockdown times, they may not manage to go or buy, or they may not manage to make their own because they could not get raw materials on time. So we provided this, like a menstrual hygiene product that fits for at least for, like 2 cycle of the menstruation period, So we are trying
one question, sorry. So maybe you can explain, because now you both mentioned the wash kit. Sabita, you also mentioned it as part of the emergency response, and now you also mentioned it. Maybe you can explain quickly what is included in the wash kit overall.
Yeah, in the wash kit, like we provide, I think there are 21, 22 items over there. So soap for bathing purpose, soap for washing purpose, and toothpaste, toothbrush, and one small towel, sanitary pad, and then most of the like people in rural areas, or especially mothers, like they don't use underwear because they are very habitual to use raw materials, like clothes and other things. So we do include underwear, so that like because the sanitary pads needs to hold, like, so we do include like underwear in a different size, and then we also included like one bucket with a tap, so that they can fill and they can use as an hand washing. They can make their own hand washing station for to maintain the hygiene. And then apart from this, we do have like we also included masks. Those are like cotton masks, which are designed in 3-folded masks, so that they can reuse. And like that for the hygiene kit, we use locally made. We created entrepreneurs. We provided training and we created entrepreneurs, and they produce this reusable mask, cloth mask basically, and then we included this one. So it's like a complete package that can fit for like we calculated as an average family of 6. So that can fit for at least 1 to 2 months.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So yeah, what I'm hearing is that there's this big 2 things. So it's the soft part, the software. So a lot of education, a lot of information, a lot of empowering the people to speak and to feel confident to speak. I mean, you both said it, right? If Giri, you are now confident to speak about it and to talk with women, but you had to go there and you had to educate yourself around the topic. For me, it was the same, like I would not feel comfortable to hold a workshop or go somewhere and speak about it without having now a couple of years like experience and diving deeper into the topic. And myself, I learned a lot in the last years around the topic and around the cycle. So I would have not been confident to interview you or to talk about the topic without having, without educating myself about the topic, because it's not, I think everywhere in the world, it's not part of the normal school curricula in depth, wherever you go, be it in urban areas or rural areas, be it in Nepal or in Germany. Like I'm saying that for real, because sometimes I also feel that people think maybe, like we in Germany, maybe we know all about it. No, it's not the case. I think menstrual hygiene and the education around it and the knowledge is overall lacking, and to speak in confidence about it and to empower teachers, mothers, like people in the communities to then be able to be in a peer group or to educate others or just speak about it in their own family, is really something which is really, really important. And then also what I found really interesting is that you both also highlighted the facilities, so the hardware components. So that, of course, it is nice to have changing rooms, to have toilets, to have running water, to have all these facilities, which are, especially then, I would guess, in the rural areas, not always there in Nepal, but which are basic and which are basic to also manage the menstruation and dignity. So yeah, that's you shared a lot of like knowledge and experiences of the situation in Nepal. What, like, apart from, you also mentioned the challenges in regards to COVID, in regards to the pandemic, in regards that you have to also send out these emergency kits, and you also said it's now again lockdown and everything. Apart from that, what kind of challenges and steps to overcome you see for the next years in regards to the menstrual hygiene topic?
Yeah, maybe I can start. Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, because the challenges in Nepal in menstrual hygiene it's a bit complex. The word itself is a bit stigmatized, and then it's there is a huge vicious circle of complexity related with menstruation. So I think the biggest challenge is as a menstruating woman myself. It's been like 15 years I have been menstruating, and if we see like the changes are not that much. Like the changes are not that big. The positive side is there are few changes, but it's very slow, very slow. And the main challenge is it's because menstruation itself it's related directly to our religion, to our tradition, and to our customs. So we have this very big fear that has been fed into us since our childhood, like because our grandmother has been through the same phase, and we are very religious, fearing people, and we have been fed that if we touch these things, or if you visit temples, if you go to kitchen, if you touch your like parent, like your brother or your father, then where something very bad is going to happen to you or to your family. This has been fed to us like since childhood, and to overcome this fear, it's a very hard thing, even for a well-educated person. I go to temple, but my sister, she cannot dare to do that because she has that fear in her mind. And as I mentioned earlier, be the extreme case of chowpadi, where someone is forced to be in a small hut or a small shed like in an animal shed for like 5 days, or in one way or other, like Giri mentioned, even in the very well-educated family in Kathmandu, in one way or other, this social stigmatization of menstruation and this problem are prevailing, very intact and deep-rooted in our society. That is the biggest challenge we have. And and I think because we female are the ones who get discriminated, and we are restricted not to enter into certain part, not perform any religious things, and we have to restrict the social gatherings and all. Even if we want to change, the younger generation, they now know the physiology behind the menstruation, and we know that this is very irrational thing that our ancestor has got. And it's very, if we go into the science of menstruation, we feel very stupid that I don't know like what is the logic behind it. But if we go this and like share it with our family, it's very hard to change the older generations. So they are very reluctant to change because they have been in their mindset for almost 40-50 years, and it's very hard to change them. So another major challenge is like your mother or the older generation has been imparting this fear into their like the children's. And even if you are well educated, you know everything behind the science of menstruation, you don't dare to jump off that fear or that barrier. So that is the biggest challenge we have. And but the positive thing is like, I have overcome that fear, and there are very few young generations, they like who dared to go to temple during menstruation. It's very few. So this deeply rooted thing that is directly related to our religion is the main biggest challenge in Nepal. The second challenge I would say is very few research has been done in MHM intervention. Like we do a lot of interventions, but regarding the research, like specific research, because as we have been discussing a lot on this, because every girls have different problems, and it depends upon the geographical locations and also on the context of which ethnicity they belong to. So the interventions, they really need to like design on a special context, because even in a district, in one district, we find various problems in different regions. And another problem I would see as a challenge in MHM would be like, as Giri mentioned earlier, would be the supply chain demand of the menstrual products. And because under our projects, we are also encouraging them to use the reusable sanitary cloth pads, because they are eco-friendly. You can reuse it after washing it with soap and water, and then drying it in sun and things like that. Because in the urban areas, people have very easy access to sanitary pads, and the one that we buy. And I think it's not only the problem in Nepal, it's everywhere, even in the developed countries, the back end of the waste, because you cannot, that is very, that it is non-degradable, and it's the final destination is always on the landfill. So, and even the landfill are not well managed in Nepal. So you see this sanitary pads just scattered in the roads and, you know, in the public spaces. So another challenge with menstrual hygiene management would be the solid waste disposal part, especially in the urban areas where you find like a heap of used sanitary products, and you don't have the engineered landfill site for the waste disposal. Yeah, and I think I can, maybe Giri can add more on this. I would conclude with another challenge is, yes, we have been specifically focusing on the MHM interventions to the girls, to the boys, to the mother groups, to the health workers. But I think we need to explore more on the, because I told that this MHM menstrual hygiene is really directly related to the religious thing. So I think there needs to be a very holistic projects and, more interventions that directly links, the younger generation, the mother group, and also the religious leader, because they are very influential. And the whole society works on the, periphery of the religious leader, because they are the more influential ones. And your older generation, they also, everything in our religion happens like under their influence. So I think we need to also, there's a very big opportunity for us to work with the local leaders, and also including the religious leader on MHM, and that very few projects has been including. So yes, I think in the societal level, these are the biggest challenge. In the school, if we talk about the school, I think the biggest challenge would be to revise the curriculum of the menstrual hygiene management, because the curriculum is still the same. When I was in school 15 years back, it's still the same. You only have like few paragraphs of what is menstruation and what are the things you do and don't, like you have to do and you don't do, in few paragraphs. I think it's on grade 9, and it's still the same. But they lack the basic science behind menstruation, because menstruation is happening also because of male, because they don't send their sperm, and then the ova doesn't get fertilized, and then we bleed. And they don't, the guys, they don't know the basic behind what is happening with the menstruation, and also the girls. And we have been taught a lot from our childhood that, the blood that we menstruate is very impure. And the girls, they have been fed up with that since the childhood. So they have to know about the rational and the basic about the science of what is happening. And the curriculum has to be revised a lot. So that would be also another challenge, I would say. Yeah, maybe Giri can add a lot.
Well covered, Sabita. So I just have one more point to add on that. I agree with what you said. And so, in regard to menstrual hygiene management, the government also has taken some initiative, like, for example, that we have policy or program, to address the menstrual hygiene management in school. So after seeing a huge dropout of school girls from schools, especially during the period time. So from the long advocacy, the government has come up with a plan to provide sanitary pad free of cost to the school student. Yeah, but these are quite popular program, but yet to bring those sorts of program into action. So even we can also we are also working with local government, to bring that plan into action, because ultimately there are some plan, but if that's not come in force, then just limit on the plan, right? So now we are just trying to link with local government and school, and then how can we ensure that that program is well implemented. And then again supply part is one thing, and also about the management and how can they manage this use sanitary pad. So from at a national level or at a local level, with the government level, we are also seeing that challenges, but at the moment we are taking this as an opportunity, to advocate what we are doing at the field level and at the community, and how can we bridge between government and our program, and then so that the menstrual hygiene issues is no longer exist at the community. If we leave from that area, but still we want to see the change in the long term. So we are just trying to connect with local government. Yeah.
Thank you. I made some notes because it's so many challenges. So,
so yeah, maybe I can add just a point and a concluding point about the challenge. Because I think I should mention it because working at the field level, we have been feeling this challenge a lot. Yeah, MHM has been advocate, and it has been an integral part of water sanitation and hygiene facilities in the agendas of different organizations and also the local government. But it has not been kept as a major agenda by the local governments, and because when we have to do some interventions, you always need some budget allocated for that. So the budget allocation by the local government, even by the Ministry of Education or Health or by the local government, it's very less, and it has not been kept as a priority agenda. So I think the budget allocation and implementation is another major challenge, because as Giri said, we make a lot of plans with the local government, but when it comes with the implementation without the support of any organization or something, it's very hard for them to implement because of the deficiency of budgets. So they really need to make it as a priority agenda and allocate budgets on them.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, it's my feeling and my thoughts about it, or my observations in the last months and last year, is that now a lot of people, organizations, governments are joining forces. I mean, it was last year when the German government, for example, set down the tax from a luxury product to a non-luxury product where we have to pay less taxes. I mean, this happened last year. It's new, So also what you said, that there is a lot of programs happening from the governmental level, but not so much implementation done in the local governments. I mean, yeah, it really sounds that there is a big challenge to really implement all the programs and plans, and I mean all the others, to revise the school curricula is very important, which you mentioned, Sabita. And for example, this is also what we did in the last months, is that we started to do interviews and research of where, for example, it is implemented in the German curricula, and if this is efficient and enough, So I think it's really some parts are happening all over the world, because it is something which is not where we don't have to say, oh, we're done in 2 years. It's a lot of very holistic approach on all levels with all the stakeholders involved. And what I also found really, really interesting is you mentioned the integration of religious leaders, because it's so inrooted into also religion, and you said, and I'm really thankful that you shared also your very personal fear and your generational, you know, like in that inrooted fear of generations past, you know, like that this is something which you can't change in a year, you know. It's like it's so deeply inherited, and it's also deeply enrooted into religion and in the cultural background, that this change is not done with like some of the programs and some interventions and actions, but it is something which needs a lot of forces behind. And I really like the idea that you said, yeah, we need to integrate leaders, and they also need to be part of it and need to like join forces for that. And then you mentioned the waste disposal. I mean, you know, like seeing the waste mountains growing overall in the world. And I don't have the figures in my head, but I saw them once, how much, you know, like waste disposal is coming from non-reusable pads, for example, overall in the world, is something which we all should tackle and look at it. Like, how can we use more environmental friendly products and stuff like that? So yeah, that's a really big challenge. And what I can also see and feel is the supply chain you mentioned, especially then also in rural areas where the general market is not there, where people don't have access and don't have access to the different products. And that what I also found out in the last year is that really there is not a lot of research done. Yeah, so you can find rarely really good statistics about MHM about MHM projects in different areas in the world. And yeah, so there, and then you already mentioned that there's like the differences of you know, the complex society of Nepal, which is so different, and then look at it worldwide, you know, like how many different challenges you face and differences. I mean, what I still feel is that the female cycle and everything involved is very complex in itself, on a biological level, on a scientific level. And then there is a lot to be done still. So yeah, thank you for mentioning all of it. So it was like I was at my notes, you know, like was like, okay. Sabita, thank you very much. But also Giri, for me, I think I asked you all the different questions I had in my mind regarding menstrual hygiene in general. And maybe you want to add something. I mean, there was also the question about evaluation of projects and goals, but I think with all the things you mentioned in the last questions and answers, you tackled all of it a little bit, you know. And I mean, the goal is, for me, I mean, if you want to also say something different, but the goal is to have the to be that all the menstruating people can manage their menstruation in dignity, you know, like with having the knowledge and education about it, and also the the facilities on the other side to really be able to manage it in dignity. Yeah, so if you want to add anything, maybe now there's the time for it.
Yeah, I don't know, like if I go on speaking on menstrual hygiene, I think I can speak for hours. Because I have like the experience that we had from our days to now. But the thing is, like, it's very sensitive in case of Nepal, and I think also in all the South Asian countries with the Hindu society, it's very sensitive and very stigmatized topic. So I think, as you said, it needs overall forces together, like joining hands of all the organizations, government, and, you know, in the individual level and everyone. So yeah, I just hope like this our generation, it doesn't impart this irrational thing to their generation. I really hope that, and we have that responsibility on our generation, because even if our generation is going to impart this to the younger generation, that is going to be very bad. And I really have a lot of hope from our generation, and the good thing is, it's changing, and I hope it changes in like a bit faster speed. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, it's just to quickly also jump in there. For me, it's the same. It lies on us. Like our generation can really change. And what you said, Sabita, was really, I really liked that, because I mean, it was a very personal insight. You changed your fear. And for example, I also changed my fear. I was ashamed of speaking about it and talking about it in the past, and I'm not anymore, but it was a long path, you know, and I'm happy that we have also men here in our round who changed also the fear of talking about it. And so thank you, Giri, for also joining forces.
Yeah, maybe he got disconnected.
Now he's back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because it shows my internet connection is unstable. So, yes, just to conclude, you know, like, yeah, our overall goal, you know, like in terms of whatever the intervention that we're doing is like, okay, we can, our aim is like just to aware the people that so that everyone can talk about menstruation openly, and then women has an environment, you know, like to live in a dignified life. So, and then let's collaborate to educate, to provide facilities, and you know, like to advocate, and also advocate, you know, like what sorts of intervention that we're doing, and what sorts of changes, you know, like we have been bringing up through our pilot, so that others can learn, or we can learn from others, and then scale up, you know, like, and reach more people. So I think if we can do in that way, then we can make a difference. Yeah, and I'm proudly saying, like, you know, I can talk about menstruation openly. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you both for speaking up, for being loud, for talking about it, for being there with also, the voices of everyone menstruating and maybe not feeling so confident to talk about it. And I think the day of menstrual hygiene day, on which is every year on the 28th of May, is really one step where we can be loud and join forces. And so I'm really happy and honored, and it was very, very interesting to learn about the complex background and situation in Nepal, and I'm really thankful also for you both to share it on a very professional level, to talk about the challenges, to talk about the design of the project and the different backgrounds and the different context of the projects, but also sharing some personal insights. So I'm really happy and thankful, and thank you for joining this talk.
Yeah, thank you, Agnes. Yeah, it's really.
Thank you very much for inviting us as well. You know, like and giving us opportunity to share our views or our experience.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really a very interesting discussions, and it's really nice to represent from Nepal and then talk about the all the backgrounds and everything. And also as a menstruating woman, I always feel proud about menstruating, and like I told you earlier, because I can speak for hours about this topic because it's very sensitive and very close to my heart also, and also because I'm also working on this same area. So yeah, thank you so much. I would like to thank both Giri and also Agnes for giving this opportunity to speak about the menstrual hygiene and about the project activity we are doing under rural reconstruction Nepal in Chitwan district. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.